the Kol Yochel phenomenon. I'd like that we should get a sense of the depth and the richness of this concept. As I said before, Kol Yochel does not mean, in the way translated in a simple word, Kol Yochel, he is able to do anything. Which means that if there is any question, can you do this for me? Of course I can do it. In this case, the question as to what to be done and what he is able to do first gets identified when there's something to do. When there's a challenge, can you do this? The answer is yes, you can. But prior to that challenge, it doesn't exist. That action and that demand doesn't exist. So therefore, we came to realize that Kol Yochel means a completely different concept. Kol Yochel means that he encompasses everything. That anything that there is to be done, anything that is possible to be done, he already, anything that is possible to have a meaning to be done, he already has it. It's already present. So in his knowledge. And thus, we came up with the question. Since that this idea is already present in his knowledge, then how come it does not materialize in fact? And we explained that this idea does not refer to a projection, a possibility of doing it. Idea, l'mayla b'an Hashem, meaning he knows the factual presence, the reality itself. He knows the world prior to its being created, as it is after it is created. With all its ramifications. This is idea Shalamayim. Therefore, since there is that idea, therefore everything should be there at all times. And everything is there at all times. Then that means that the idea itself results in the presence of the Nivroim. And there's no need for the Nivroim to be created specifically. They already exist because they're known. And then we came up with a real difficulty in this. They always think that the Nivroim are full-fledged creatures, creations, that they're able to make their own choices and find their own way. And when they do something, it's because their own recognition and their own choice. But how can it be? It's already pre-known before. This is the most difficult question in this whole phenomenon. But that the Rebbe can do everything and knows everything, that is not a difficulty. At least we don't understand how it is, but we can recognize its truth. But this is a contradiction. How is it that this idea has no reflection, that has no result, in fact? And we said even further that when ultimately anything happens in the world, when ultimately a human being makes a decision to do something in the world, and he goes ahead and does it, that decision and that ability to do it is rooted and it's a reflection of this idea that the Rebbe knew this action. This is what enables the whole phenomenon. Therefore, there is absolutely nothing new in that which a human being does. He follows through in a natural flow from the divine knowledge. So, what's the significance of his action? And the key to this, to approaching understanding this, is what we say, that this knowledge does not automatically result in the inyan happening. And how did we explain this phenomenon? That his knowledge, which is a factual knowledge, and yet it does not occur. So we said, phenomenal statement, which have to make sense to it. This is part of the Kol Yochel. So how do we translate this? How would we understand it? This is part of Kol Yochel. He is able to hold it back from happening. It's like one would saying that somebody threw a rock. The rock is flying, and he is not able to control the rock. The rock is flying on its own. But the Rebbe is able to control the rock all the way down to its final target. So he can always stop it right in the middle. So this is like this very superficial aspect. He is able to withhold things from happening that will tend to happen. This is Kol Yochel. There's no Kol Yochel in this. This is here, you can do this, you can do this, you can do that. Where does the Kol Yochel come in here? Again, this is the Kol Yochel on the very superficial, all things that you can identify he can do when they come up. But we explain that the Kol Yochel is an all-encompassing aspect at all times. In other words, a rock is flying, and he allows the light to fly. At the same time, as the rock is flying and the light can fly, he's also stopping the rock. Now with this Kol Yochel, the phenomenon of Kol Yochel, both the positive and the negative are all the time there. And this is, in fact, and we're not finished with it, we just want to bring it to some kind of, to bring out this point. The fact is, when a person throws a rock, halachically, he's responsible for whatever the rock does. Whatever occurs from this rock. Now, let's reflect. He threw the rock. At the time when he threw, he was in control of the rock and he was responsible for what he's doing. But once the rock left his hand, he's no longer in control of the rock. Why is he then responsible for what the rock does at that point? He's no longer involved in it. It's not his action anymore. The rock is doing things on its own.
Since
What? What?
Since Baruch is not here, maybe you should do the conference.
How come? I didn't. How come Baruch is not here? You should give him the
patch.
Yeah, I'll call. I'll call in the conference. Oy,
Welcome to IDT Connect. Please enter your conference ID. Welcome. Thank you. You are now entering the conference room. To exit the conference room, press **. For help, press *9. Participant number 1.
All right. Sorry, Yakov. I'd like we should get into this. It is totally irrational from a worldly perspective. The whole question. What?
To recap, we're saying that once the rock flies, it could fly or Hashem could stop it. And on the other hand, we're saying the human being is responsible for what the rock does.
Well, they're two separate things. Hashem can stop it, but the human being cannot stop it. How come the human being is responsible for what occurs with this rock once it leaves his hand?
And that's halacha.
I know. What's halacha? What's mentioned in halacha? So normally, we would say it's very simple. He's responsible for the time when he threw it, not on time when he's flying. When he threw it, the time when he threw it, these glass pieces were there, and therefore, that throw is directly connected to the fact that they broke. At the time when he threw it, not at the time when it's flying.
What was that you made?
Not
getting this. You may think that he's only responsible at the moment he throws it, but not
Yeah.
while it's flying.
A time when that's in his hand. Once it's flying, it's out of his hand.
So therefore what?
Why is he responsible for what happens?
He started a course of action.
What?
He started a course of
That's
action.
what I'm saying.
That he's responsible.
No, I'm saying that at the time, when he started, at the time when he threw it, when it was in his hand.
Right, but the result's going to follow. So
That's right.
Why would you think he's not responsible when the result occurs?
No, please think of me. His action ended at the time when he let the rock go from his hand. Now the rock flies because nature took over.
No, he had an intention.
What?
He had an intention when he
Whether he had intention is insignificant. But his ability to participate, he's not a participant in this anymore.
Right. His responsibility is based on the fact that he caused it.
Okay, that's what I said. So this is our normal response. His responsibility is the fact that he started it. In other words, the responsibility goes back to the time when he let the rock go from his hand, not when the rock is flying.
Therefore,
1 second. This is how we understand it. What?
I want to know something. The act of throwing, when something is thrown, already the thrower has transferred his power to the rock, to the thrown thing. One would not. It's not like he put the rock like up here and it was going to stay right up here. There's a trajectory.
And
So it seems to me that it's part of a continuous action.
there is, okay, we'll pick up on that. The question is, how is it a continuous action? He is no longer connected to it. He will let go of the rock.
We're using this to focus on the way that action occurs across time, or action begins and then it continues without our input.
We're using this to try to understand the principle that Hashem's knowledge of anything in the world is the ultimate source and koyach for it occurring. Not only that, the ability of a human being to affect things in the world is actually a reflection and an actualization of that which is divinely known. So in order to put that in perspective, I went off to a different area completely, it would seem. I went into our own orientation in the world. We hold the person responsible for the flight of the rock, even though he's no longer in control of it.
That's a moshal for he's the originator and therefore responsible.
No, I didn't come to I didn't answer that. I'm just pointing out that this is so to speak, an accepted truth. And now we have to try and understand what is the basis of this truth. On what basis is it accepted?
Is it possible to make a distinction like what Yitzchak brought up?
What Yitzchak brought up is good.
Right.
Yeah, I'm finished with that. It says that. I'm not finished with that. I'm still making sure that we understand the question.
I have a hard time understanding it because what he brought up is
No, but the question, okay, fine, but the question in itself is also kind of counterintuitive, the way we function.
But
What do you mean by the way we function?
The way we think of things.
is this?
The way we think of things, you threw the rock, therefore you're responsible for its flight. There's no need to explain it. But when you go down to the issue itself, let me explain the issue. Let me elaborate on this a little bit. The responsibility for the flood and for the effect of the rock. The rock flew and it broke some Tehilim, or it hurt somebody. The responsibility for this act is not merely a human level responsibility. You caused my cable to be broken, so you have to pay for that. The responsibility for this act is a true responsibility. True responsibility means that there is a divine element in this. Because, please understand, this is what we're talking about the whole time, we're trying to make it. When you break a cable, there are two things that happen. Thing one, this cable belonged to this and this person. You caused him damage. The other thing is you broke a viable piece in the world. And breaking a viable piece in the world is a prohibition. It's called baltashkus.
To remain on this call, press 1.
You know, it's a violation of the divine principle in the world. This is not just human. This is a worldwide or a divine level of violation.
Isn't it the opposite? It is because it's a divine violation, it reflects in the human situation, and he's opposed to other guys. Okay, either way, there's the human level and the divine. Enough?
The human being has caused a divine level violation, and this is what he's responsible for, at least at some level. And the divine level violation is there all the time. Not at the time he threw the rock, but all the time. Even at the time when the rock hit the object. It's the same thing.
Right, Patel, what does that mean that it's there all the time? I didn't understand that.
It means that this is exactly what we're trying to explain. It means that it is not merely the act of the throw. It is the act and the resultant flight and the resultant hit.
Wait a minute, is that to say sort of preordained all the time?
Okay, this is what we're trying to understand.
Okay.
Since we got into it, I'd like to get down to the bottom of this. When a rock flies, in our perception, once you threw it, it flies on its own. It's completely out of, so to speak, of any control. It's not flying because it's destined to fly. It's flying because it's flying in no man's land. You know no man's land? It's flying nowhere. It's out of human control and it's flying. And from that perspective, we may ask the question, since that it's flying in no man's land, how can you hold him responsible for this? Please, before you ask a question, think it through. Understand what we're trying to say. We understand how this works out on the simple human level. But we're talking about the Torah responsibility. Not that you damage my kid, pay for your damages.
Well, I'm thinking of the case of the guy throwing the rock and kills the person.
That's right. That's right. How is he responsible? The rock killed the person. The Rebbe should be responsible. The Rebbe should make the rock fly.
He's going to lose his life.
What?
He's going to lose his life as a consequence of that. That's your decision. That's a business decision. This is not his action. I know this question is odd in terms of our normal experience. But if you think in terms of a broader reality.
Yeah. You mentioned the third party, namely that God is a sort of partner in this whole episode.
That's right.
So, yeah.
So why am I responsible?
There's a question.
The question is like this. When you throw a rock and the rock is flying, the flight of the rock, in what way is it connected to your throw?
Right, in other words, saying, if you, let's say, imagine that it's like there's no unifying reality. It's like me here.
There is unifying, but it's not you.
You're saying forget laws of nature. You're saying God is a partner in making this happen.
Laws of nature. Nature is responsible, but my act is finished. Until I let go of the rock, I'm not connected to it. I can be responsible for having caused it, but that's a different kind of responsibility.
You ask me like if I start a fire and the whole house burns down, but I just burn my possession over here. That's like a mission of it. You're asking why?
No. That's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Because the fire is the same fire.
And the rock you're saying is different.
It's different. That's why the rock is.
No difference. Just a different point in time. I begin the emotion, and now it moves across time. My behemoth runs and
is the motion of the flight of the rock. Is it the same motion that began when I swung my hand?
Well, that was Yitzhak's point, that it is a continuation.
I'm not talking about Yitzhak's point. I'm asking how is it on that's right. How is it in our perception?
Right. We live in a world where there is continuity in.
The continuity is a sense of responsibility.
And you're saying that's the third party. That's God's.
That's right. Yeah. Continuity is due because that's the nature of things, but it's not me.
Right. But my understanding is he kind of grants us freedom and we need to act responsibly, and hence we.
No question about it.
Right.
I'm asking the responsibility is how it's connected to me. Is it a responsibility that is put upon me, or am I really factually responsible?
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, once you let go of the rock, anything can happen. Wind can come. It can go in different. It could be.
Exactly. Is there a difference? Is there a difference? Whether I threw the rock and the rock is flying, or I go with the rock to him and hit him on the head.
Yeah. Right. Well, like you hit his point, there can be any intervention along the way, but you're still okay.
the point that Yitzhak made is a point that Chassidus talks about. This is the point that I'm actually shooting for. We should understand a very important principle. The way Chassidus defines the flight of the rock, listen to this. You threw the rock. The koyach of your hand had now dissociated from your hand and now had been embedded in the rock. The rock is not flying on its own, the way we interpret it. The rock is being carried by the koyach of your swing, of your hand. This is how it is identified in Torah and in Chassidus. And I'd like we should get into this, and this is a Torah concept. I'd like to get into this, and we should understand how so. This is counterintuitive from our worldly, from our normal life.
I'm not getting why I don't hear why it's counterintuitive. It seems completely.
You threw the rock. You're responsible for the moment when you threw it, not for its flight. It flies on its own.
Right. I mean, on some abstract level, but in this world, it's not.
Okay, how does it fly? How is the flight connected to my throw?
Well, you said from a Torah perspective, you're imbuing this.
No, I'm talking from the worldly perspective.
From the worldly perspective, it's very, very similar, where you're saying you're imbuing it with a kinetic energy or a motion, a trajectory. To use the word.
Yeah, but it's no longer my koyach. I swung it. Now it is part of the koyach from the world. It's dissociated from my hand.
If I execute a action at a distance, it's still my action. If I shoot an arrow there, or if I sign a deed on a house over there.
Is this how we view it? Or we say, no, once you threw it, once you swung your hand, the rock flies on its own. Honestly, how do we understand it in the world?
In the world?
Yeah.
Are you saying on a kind of a gross physical level, it's completely disassociated?
Completely disassociated, it flies on its own.
Okay.
All right. This is my point. So on the physical, on the worldly level, we perceive it as flying on its own, in no man's land. And therefore, we have a question: how am I responsible for its effect? And from this, we come into a completely different understanding, explanation of the whole phenomenon of the flight of the rock. The rock is not flying on its own. It is being carried by the koyach of my hand.
My emissary, my agent.
I'm not talking about the purpose. I'm talking about the action.
Yeah, okay.
It's being carried by the koyach of my hand. This phenomenon, this understanding that is being carried by the koyach of my hand, is not the way we interpret, we see it in the world.
But it is a fairly human perception, but it's a sickly perspective, you're saying. It's not a worldly orientation. One
second. Don't jump the gun. These are the questions. We're saying he's responsible. And we're saying that technically if he's responsible, it means he's still involved in it. He's involved in it means that his koyach is carrying it. But this is not the way we understand it from a worldly perspective. Worldly perspective, he threw it. The responsibility is due because he's responsible for the moment of the throw. Allah states the following: you throw a rock. You throw a rock and rock is flying. While the rock is flying, somebody else comes and puts a dish in the path of its flight. And the rock breaks the dish. Is he responsible for that?
Who's the thrower or the dish mover?
Huh?
Which one? You're asking the thrower?
Yeah.
Clearly not. Well, it depends, I guess. Depends.
Why does it depend? Yeah.
Why does it depend?
Yeah.
Well, there's reckless behavior.
Okay, listen, my dear friend. We're not here to play games. We want to get identified the reality as it is perceived from the Torah perspective. I just perceived, so to speak, from the truth perspective.
It is a little bit tricky on this example because unlike Hashem, we cannot recall the flight of the rock. So it's kind of hard to make it a play of responsibility. Even if we say that it's followed.
Fine. The question is, responsibility is one thing, the question is cause. What are we involved in the final cause? Being responsible for it is a separate thing.
Are we involved in the final cause?
Yeah.
We're a participant.
How do you participate? It's out of your hand. It flies on its own. Everybody knows the term kinetic energy. It flies on its own.
Yeah, but since we're speaking about cause, the original cause is by the.
Why am I responsible for the cause? It flies on its own. Once I started, it flies on its own. How's it connected to me?
What do we? And this is pointing, making us aware.
So I'm saying like this: we can very easily take it away from this realm, from this level of discussion, and say the cause that makes it irresponsible for it. And truly, you're the cause. But this is not the end of the story. I'm trying to explain the words of the mind. A person has a koyach in his hand. With his hand, he can do anything he wants. He can throw a rock and he can build a house. Okay? With his hand, with his safe. And we say that all the things that he can do with his hand is actually sourced in Hashem's knowledge of his ability to do it. At the beginning, we got into this is not a theoretical thing because I want to understand the words in the Maimon. And the words of the Maimon is, I'm reading again, the two lines from the bottom, in the parentheses, Umisham, from there, from Hashem's knowledge, Be'emes, in real truth, Mokir HaKoyach Nipulas Hod, is the source of the Koyach for human effect, human action. So to understand this, I went off to talk in terms on the physical level. The principle that we want to understand, the principle that I wanted to bring out from the physical level. Yes, we have a very shallow view of things. You threw a rock and the rock flies, and that's the end of the story. It flies on its own.
This flight that results on the rock even though you let go of the rock, it is sourced. Oh yeah, here's the real challenge that we'd like to understand. Listen again. There are two aspects in this. One is that the rock finds its own way and it flies wherever you directed it to fly. The other is that at the moment of the throw, you imbued into the rock the koyach to take this flight. I'll ask a point blank question because we got into this, we have to get the bottom. When a person swings your hand and the rock flies, it's out of his hand. Is the Rebbe still in control of the rock or not?
Yes.
How so? The Rebbe created, and it is what it is. He created it 2 days ago.
You're positing a no man's land, but is not a no God's land.
Hashem is in control everywhere all the time.
Okay, this is what we're trying to bring out. Koil yochel. Koil yochel means all-encompassing, not all capable. Calling all-encompassing. Everything is occurring within the divine reality. The fact that there is such a thing as a rock flying is a divine reality. It's part of the Kol Yochel. Not phenomenon. You say it's a natural phenomenon. You threw it and it flies. It's a divine phenomenon. It is true because that's how the Rebbe creates the world. The reason, let me finish this. The reason that when you swing your hand and let go of the rock and rock flies is not because of your swing of the hand. That's only a shallow view of it. The reason for that is, or the cause of it is, because excuse me, you are not just yourself. You are part of the big world. Your ability to swing your hand is not your ability to swing it. Your ability to swing your hand is to make movement in the entire world. That movement is not isolated to your hand, to this moment. At that moment, you have moved the entire world in that direction. This is what the Rebbe says. The cause, the source of every action is sourced in Hashem's knowledge before it even came to be. Everything that occurs in the world is not a surface deep. Does not occur exclusively in this moment. It's not a momentary thing.
Goes all the way back to the original cause.
All the way to original cause. Wait a second. That's correct. All the way back to the original
force, and that original force is part of this action, not its cause.
Right, and Shem Havaya, Shem Elokim, nature, they're all
Also,
nested in
this
each
is all
other.
that enables it. The Rebbe continues to create the world, and this is why the Rak flies. And so the Rebbe said, "See, stop creating the world, the Rak would disappear." Not only its flight would disappear, its presence would disappear.
And does this bring us back where we started with his idea is not sufficient, or it does not result in.
This is why that question is.
It's to highlight that question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why this idea? How come this idea is not, it does not materialize in an actual presence? This is why we needed to go to a super insight that this idea is behavdola, is a super knowledge. It's not a knowledge as we know it in our world. It's a super knowledge. This is why it does not directly result in heaven.
It's so stupid, Muvdal Legamre. It's so superlative.
It's what? It's called?
So super. Such a
Yeah. It's a different realm of knowledge.
Right. The fact that the idea per se does not result in a cause, that's not wondrous. By him, we kind of established that his idea.
No, it is wondrous if you identify idea correctly.
No, because the correct identification is through and through. And therefore, why would there be a hefsek?
Why would it not happen?
Saying it's time. Fine people.
Idea. All right, we'll still struggling with this.